All right, folks, we are back. I'm your host, BKP. Welcome this Friday morning. You know, I don't care if it's pouring the rain, which it is pouring the rain, Dr. Whaley.
It is, yeah.
You got your rain. You got your rain gauge out. Are you going to be able to tell us what we're going to? I mean, usually you give us weather.
I do that. Yeah,
drought. You give us the whole thing.
We're 3 inches up for the year, and we're going to have about a half an inch up here. They're going to have an inch and a half or 2 inches over on the coast.
Where else do you get a weather report?
Wait, I'm going to give you a history lesson here in a minute.
Weather, history, and a couple questions. Oh, wait a minute. Can I interest you in this beautiful lamp? Can you call Jane and tell her you found the lamp
for the living room?
Fits.
But I've seen this lamp several times before. I have.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
I've seen this lamp several times before. And it's in dark places that have big red felt.
Easy. Huh? Weather report. That's the last report. What business you got in those places?
Amsterdam, you might find these there where the people are standing in the window and you walk down the main street. You ever been to Amsterdam?
No.
You've seen the movie though, right?
Yes.
All right. So, everybody can tell I'm wearing my flag tie and I'm wearing my Vietnam veteran. I just put this on. I thought, this daggum jacket is 55 years old last month.
I know that jacket very well over the years.
Yeah.
And I always do. I'm going to tell you, I know if you're a first-time viewer out here, this jacket is got so much memory and so much memory and so many stories in those patches. And every time you put that on and you bring that William H. Whaley Lieutenant.
Yeah, I'm a commander now that I'm retired, but I was Lieutenant Medical Corps USNR there. Anyway, interesting about this jacket, I couldn't find it this morning. I said, Jane, where's my jacket? I haven't worn the thing in a year. I think I wore it this 1 year ago today.
I'd put that in a glass case with the red, make sure nobody steals it with a lock.
Okay, now I want to spend a minute because I do, Northside Cancer Center is going to give me this minute, but people don't really realize that this holiday today was started in 1919 as a commemoration of the end of the war to end all wars. It was called the Great War.
Right.
And the First World War had Germany and some allied small countries, but basically Germany, Austria, and the German Empire, fighting the French, the English, and the Russians. And as always, they ran over the French in a heartbeat. And the war began in 1914, and after about a year, it stymied in France and Belgium, and they had ditches in the ground you call trenches, and they moved back and forth no more than a few hundred yards in several years. 9 million soldiers died in that war. More than died in World. Now, more Russians, of course, died in World War II. They had more than 9 million. 5 million civilians died in that war, and 21 million were wounded. So the English and French lost a whole generation that they replaced just in time for World War II. Now, when this war got close to being ended, the Germans were beating the heck out of the Russians. And in 1917, the Russians, which were ruled by the Tsar, the average guy like us who wants to be a voter and run his own business, began the Russian Revolution because the Russians were losing to the Germans. And it was the Tsar running that war, and the German people didn't want that war. Russian people didn't want that war. So this war actually created modern-day Russia and eliminated the Tsar. It eliminated the Austrian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, and it did not eliminate the king from England, but it eliminated most of these monarchies. And in any event, it was 5:45 in the morning of November the 11th when the armistice was signed between the surrender agreements, not the armistice. Surrender agreements between the Germans, English, and the French were signed, and they agreed that at 11 a.m. they would stop fighting. And you didn't have the internet then, you didn't have, so over radio and telegraphs and carrier pigeons and word of mouth as much as they could over hundreds of miles of ditches, they put out the word that you got to stop fighting at 11 o'clock. Now, that gives you 6 hours. What do you do? I mean, if I'm me, I'd pack my bag and, hunker down or something. About 9 o'clock that morning, one English general and colonel who wanted to take as much land as possible, you see CVS over there is probably 200 yards away, took about 4,000 of his troops up over the wall, and he lost about 2,500 of them to machine gun fire coming out of the CVS, but literally fought right up until 10:59, which stupidest thing you could have done. But the end of World War I, when the Germans were being lectured to, like this election, we're being lectured to by President Wilson and the French and the English, they put such a box around the Germans that the Germans had to get out of that box, and so World War II seeds were sowed in the end of this war here. But the point I'm making is that millions and millions of people died in World War I that accomplished absolutely nothing in terms of world politics except to get rid of the Tsar and get rid of a few kings. So this holiday that we have today that began to commemorate that war now commemorates all veterans. And so we have stopped thinking about the modern day veterans. Every time I go someplace and somebody sees the Vietnam thing on the back of my car, they say, "Thank you for your service." No, I don't see anybody saying that to the people that have been in since 9/11. All of our sand, Afghanistan, those guys nobody ever seems to say anything to them. So if you know a veteran today, even a veteran of the last few years, go out there and tell him thank you, because when you come home, you've messed up Afghanistan, you screwed it up when you left, you messed up Vietnam, you screwed it up when you left. You didn't accomplish a whole lot except you made a man out of a lot of boys. You killed a lot of boys and now young women, and they just went where they were told to go. I mean, I don't think that any of us had any great illusion that we knew exactly what we were doing or why, just because they told us to. So say hello to somebody today. That's all.
Well, I appreciate you taking that minute.
Actually, 3 minutes. I think.
Well, regardless of what it was something that time well spent, as they say, and I'm glad you took that time to talk about Veterans Day, and even to highlight the generation that we do say to Vietnam vets, and we say thank you for your service. And when I say the kids, because they're younger than me, and no disrespect, these young men and women, but you could go around, and there was a time you would see the hat said World War II.
Yeah, they're gone.
You can't find those hats. And then you'd see hats that said Korea.
Yeah. I just lost my last Korean veteran about a month ago.
Exactly.
That was Mr. Galloway up here. He was 96.
Now, it's hard to find those hats.
Yeah, it's hard to find Vietnam hats.
Well, I don't mean the hat in general.
I mean the people.
The people
veterans.
wearing that hat.
Yeah.
Now we see Vietnam, the hat.
Yeah, except they're dying off fast.
Exactly. And what you said is very important. We've had a lot of young men and women that went into the sand battles and in the Afghanistan.
You don't see hats.
And you don't see hats, and you don't see that, and you also don't see people not showing appreciation. They do. It's so hard because
Yeah, it's hard.
I know we show appreciation and we appreciate them, but it's a different way. You brought up, you really brought something up. And one thing you talked about with World War I, if you really study, and you do, the difference in World War II is what happened in World War II we're living through today.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Those things that took place, the divisions, the lines,
Oh, yeah.
the Russia, the
China.
Ukraine, the China,
Yeah. That's all World War II.
we're seeing that today.
Yeah. Taiwan. Taiwan is where Chiang Kai-shek fled to in 1948. Chiang Kai-shek was our guy in China, and Mao Zedong was a rebel. Anyway.
Go ahead.
We're going to talk about testicular cancer. We haven't talked about this in a long time.
We will have more of this kind of discussion after Ask the Doc.
Okay.